Tēnā koutou māmā, nau mai ki tā tātou kaupapa e kia nei, ko Whare Tangata. This is a series for us, by us, all about us and about our tinana and what is important for us and for our wairua, hinengaro, taha tinana, e rā ahuatanga katoa. It's important that we talk about contraception. It's important that we talk about our tinana. It's important that we get informed to empower us and to empower our lives. So I thank you for joining us. I thank you for being a part of our kaupapa, being a part of Kia ora Mama, sharing your stories, and that's what this is about. So we have here some beautiful mama who graciously agreed to be in this space and to share their stories, because it's important that we hear from different mama about different experiences, again, to help empower us and inform us about what will work for us. So no mai ki roto ki tā tātou kaupapa, and most importantly, no mai ki a kōrua. E mihi ana i tō kōrua whakai mai ki tēnei tono. I know it's not easy to agree to just tell everybody about your whare tangata and about your life, but here we are. And I thank you for being a part of Kia ora Mama and for being here today, and again, for opening up your kōrero. So, ka nui te mihi ki a kōrua. Kasey, I'm calling you our mātanga because that's what you are, and I know you don't agree to that, but that's what you are, e hoa. And I thank you for being in this kōrero, because you'll provide us with just that actual kōrero that we need to know. Because I think what I've identified anyway is, even personally, I don't know enough. I don't know enough to help me know what's best for me. So I'm really grateful that you're here, so I can just throw all of those questions your way. E te hoa Puawai, I have admired you and your mahi for a long time, and I think you are a great example of inspiring other mama to be their best self. So I thank you for the mahi that you do, and I'm grateful that you're here. Your pepe is not too long been out of the womb, so you know, look at how amazing you look, and that you're it's all about the journey.
Work in process.
No, but that you're here with us today. So tēnā kōrua. We're going to jump in there, and we're just going to talk about our journeys, our lives, and our whare. But it's important, obviously, that we, do our whakawhanaunga. Ka timata ki a koe, Kasey. E rā kōrero katoa, ko wai koe, no hea koe. But again, importantly, what you do, the powerful mahi that you do in our hohipera and for our wahine. Nā reira. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, kahurangi. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Puawai. Ko Kasey tāwhara tōku ingoa. Nō taki a hei. Ko tainui te marae, ko Ngāti kapumana whiti te hapu Ngāti raukoa te iwi. I tipu ake au ki o taki, engari i nei ka noho ki konei, me tōku whānau. So I am a takuta at the hohipera. I'm a gynecologist, obstetrician, and what that means is I deal with te whare tangata and our wahine hapu. Which is choice. That's my tino mahi. I love it. Been doing it a while now. E toru aku tamariki. Our iramotu, she's 17. And then we have our 9-year-old and our 4-year-old. And they keep me grounded.
I like that word.
That māmā. But he tino pai tēnei kaupapa. Ngā ki a koe. Kia ora kōrua.
Tēnā koe hoa. Kia ora. Thank you. And for all the mahi that you do. Kia ora rawa.
E te whanaunga.
Ai. Karawhiu e hoa. Tēnā kōrero hia mai ko wai koe, no hea koe, and your life story, I guess.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Te Puawaitanga Winterburn tōku ingoa. He uri hoki no Ngāti kapumana whiti, no Ngāti raukaua ki au ki te tonga. No Ngāpuhi, no roto mai o hokianga whakapau karakia, o manga muka. No konei, no Ngāti whakauwe. Ko taku mahi, ko au te kaihautu, te rangatira o te Pakehi Fit Wahine NZ, Aotearoa. Ko taku mahi, he awhinai ngā wahine, ngā māmā, kia whakapakari te tinana, i te hinengaro, i te wairua hoki. Ko te rā, he māmā e rua aku tamariki, taku mātāmua, ko Puhi i Haia Chapman rangihewea, taku pōtiki, ko kōtuku te toi o ngā rangi te toko ihi, e ona tau, e whitio marama tōna pakeke, nō reira, me ki he māmā hou anō,
Yeah.
Ai.
Tēnā koe. And like I said earlier, I think the mahi that you do with Fit Wahine is so inspirational. It takes, you're putting yourself out there as well, but you're also doing that to help inspire other wahine. So that's awesome, mahi. Both of you, in fact. We're all sort of dedicated to this concept that empowered wahine empower other wahine. And so, that's really important. So I thank you both for the mahi that you do. But we're here to talk about contraception, because one thing that I find in Kia ora Māmā is whenever we talk about it, there's like, this is my experience, and well, I wish I knew this, I wish I knew that. That's the biggest thing, is that we all know that actually we might have done things differently had we known a little bit more. So I kind of want to start there in terms of the mahi that you do, Kasey, and or even personally, like, tell us about your contraception journey.
Yeah, ka pai.
Please.
My contraception journey. I'm not a good pill taker.
Yeah.
Engari, I tried.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of all I knew about, really.
Is that like, in phases? Does it go, you start with the pill because that's just the most common thing, and then you work your way up?
I think so, because that was younger. So on the pill. I have the Mirena, and that seems to be working well. Engari, I think we were having a kōrero before, that it needs to be changed. Wondering whether or not I have anything after that or when it's time. My journey as a gynecologist is exactly like on Kia ora Māmā. I talk to lots of wahine about different options, what may or may not work, or actually I just listen and have to listen to the ones that don't work, and hear their kind of experiences and then try and work out a better way.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And so the Mirena has worked for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like your periods are fine, hasn't been any other complications?
So it was probably a humbling experience getting a Mirena, in terms of just being on the receiving end of the procedure.
Sure. Of course, yes.
And then experiencing some of the things that I tell women to expect then. So with the Mirena, I say there could be unscheduled or erratic bleeding for such and such and such. You might get a few blah. And it comes out like that, but actually then when you're on the receiving end of that, I was like,
wow.
And I had to, listen to what I preach and give it a bit of time. And then after that, my bleeding stopped. So I might every now and then get a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Were you going down that pathway purely for the purpose of not wanting to have more tamariki, or for your periods, or for both?
For a bit of both.
Yeah.
And a bit of the mamai that comes around that time. But also the ease, because I knew I was terrible with a pill. Kia ora. So set and forget in there.
Yeah. Kia ora. Tell us about your journey, Hoa. Even when you were younger, right through to now.
Yeah. So I guess growing up, I don't think I had much kōrero about contraception. And
was it just your friends,
Yeah. And friends would go see the health nurse at Kura, so I'd be like, I'll come, I'll wag this class.
Yeah, totally.
End up going in and, being exposed, I guess, to all these different types of contraception. Yeah. But at the age of 17, I gave birth to my big girl, my taku mātāmua.
Yeah.
So I was a young māmā.
Yes.
And I jumped on the rod on the Jadelle, maybe 7 months later, 6 months after giving birth to her. And like you, I wasn't good at taking the pill.
Yeah.
Just forget. And I was on and off the pill while having my big girl. So that didn't work.
Clearly.
Yeah. Yes. So, I had to. For me, as a young māmā, I I knew that if I wanted to achieve the things like getting a degree or experiencing a bit of life, I had to jump on some sort of contraception at the time. And I think the Jadelle had just come out about 10 years ago, maybe. I'm not sure how long ago it came out, but I remember it was new.
Right.
And again, I just walked into, the doctors, and they told me what available? They thought, was good for me. So I was like, okay, we'll try that one.
Yeah.
I remember bleeding for on and off for about a year.
Wow.
Longest being about 6 months. Consistently. And, I didn't like that, but I think the bigger goal of
don't get pregnant.
tika, not getting pregnant was my kind of main focus to hang in there.
Sure.
But once the bleeding stopped, it started to regulate.
Okay.
On and off after a year. And I ended up having the rod again after the 5 years.
That's the period of time that you have them for?
Yeah. Took it out after 5 years, got another one because again I wasn't ready at that time to have another PFS. Still had things to do.
Yes. And what did they say to you? Like, what was here's your options, or was it, we think you should have this?
Yeah, I remember them because I was saying the pill doesn't work for me. I'll forget. But then them mentioning the Marina. But I had heard stories from my cousins that it could come out. I've heard stories of it, getting caught onto the ure of your tane, which is like really scares me. Like
we can't have that happening.
And just it not feel people wahine saying that they could feel it. They could feel it up there, and I guess I didn't like that. I decided to go on that onto the Jadelle. But I guess they mentioned that it wasn't 100%. I could still fall hapu on the Jadelle, and I've heard of wahine who have. And that the bleeding, that I might bleed for a year.
Did that happen again the second time that you?
Okay, cool. No. So once it regulated, it was cool, and I was like, I'm on my merry way.
Nice. So no other side effects for you other than the periods. There was no like bloating or other.
Not that I can remember.
Yep.
Yeah. Was 10 years ago now.
And so with your second baby, were you on any contraception for that?
Carl. So after about 9.5, almost 10 years, I decided to take it out. And that was because it had been in for so long that I was actually getting a bit scared, a bit mataku around whether could I have another baby, like what are the effects that the Jadelle, or that this contraception has had on my tinana, on my hormones, on my
everything.
My whare.
So how did that go? Was it fine? It came out. It was quite easy for you to conceive again. We conceived maybe about 4 or 5 months after taking it out. That's not too bad. So with Puawai's experience, Kasey, is that a normal thing? Like you get the rod in, you bleed like that, or what are some of the other scenarios that you've heard about with the rod?
The bleeding, definitely.
Right.
So if people want the rod out, it's usually because it's kind of created chaos with the ikura, and they're just not vibing that at all, which is fair enough, eh? And so you can either walk them through a journey, like, put up for it for a year, but try and figure out the end goal, like you said. Or if it's not, then you take it out. And so bleeding's one. Some will talk about premenstrual syndrome. Like before your ikura comes, there's that time where maybe your mood's a little different. Might get that bloatedness, mamai, kikonei, and those sorts of things. And that can be exaggerated for some. It can kind of heighten that, and they don't like that. Weight with any of the contraceptions people talk about, which I think traditionally doctors have always kind of gone,
it's a nothing.
It's not a thing. Or they try and say, it's your appetite increases or something.
I've seen our mamas talk about this and be like, I put on so much weight, and so it is a thing.
But I think, we have to recognise and acknowledge that actually, it is a thing.
Right.
That's a hormonal thing. It might be a bit of fluid retention, but either way, it's all
real.
Of the above. It's real, and it's weight.
What's the procedure? Like, what actually happens?
What happens?
Put in a Jadelle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the procedure. So the first time I got it, they had this like big needle.
Ooh.
Well, it felt big to me. I don't like needles.
No,
it
was big.
Me and needles.
Yeah.
They numb your arm. And they put the needle in, and then they push the two rods into your kitty, and it's supposed to stay just on the outside of your skin, so not too deep.
See it?
Yeah, you could see my one. I've heard of stories where they pushed it way too far, and when they went to take it out, it couldn't come out, and they had to do this like massive procedure to try and get it out, or like yank it out.
Thankfully, you didn't have that. It was quite a straightforward.
There was a bit of yanking.
So to put it in is somewhat easy, but the whole idea is that you put these rods there in your and just under the kitty, but it's the job of your body to then cocoon it and hold it in place, and so you get what we call like a capsule or a bit of scar tissue, but so it doesn't move everywhere else. So its job is to kind of encase. And so when you go to remove it, often that's way harder because you have to kind of open that case and yank it out.
I see.
And some bodies are very good at really shock.
Yes,
and it can be, a bit of a journey for people to get it out. And so up at the hoipera, because most of these are removed in the community. So I don't know if you just had your GP or a nurse take it out.
Yeah.
So I only see the ones where they've tried. And they haven't been able to find or get it out. Yeah. And so they might be under general anaesthetic with me.
I was going to say,
and then we take it out.
Wow.
And it can be, a bit of a mish.
And what about now? What does life look like for you now? What are you looking for in terms of your contraception journey?
So at the moment, I'm not on any contraception.
Yeah.
And that's... my tāne and I plan to have more tamariki. In the future. Yeah. That's I guess helped make that decision for me around not going on to any contraception right now. But that's also because I don't actually know if there's any, because there's kind of a time when we want to try. Actually, just recently, I've had a miscarriage about a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. Tēnā koe hoa. Thank you for sharing that. I know, kua kite au, kua rongo au I etahi atu māma e kōrero ana mō tēnei, because it actually, that time in our lives when those sorts of things happen, they remain taboo as well. Just like contraception, we don't talk enough about that. So I thank you for just saying that and sharing that with us. And e aroha ana ki a korua koto hoa I tā tātou pepi. And, for every other mama out there too, because we had this in our first Kia Ora Mama series where it's such a brave thing to even just say the words and then what that means for you, because the reality is that you have to live your life through that mamai and through that pain. So e aroha nui ana ki a koe me tō hoa. There's no... I'm tearing.
I hope my makeup's okay.
You look great.
And the eyes.
You look great. And how are you? How have you been?
The timing, the entire, I guess, experience was that thing of sitting in limbo. Yeah. Not knowing. I te heke mai te toto I taua wā, and we weren't sure what was going on.
Yeah. What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got a scan and I reira tonu a pepe. So But then our midwife had been saying, like, this happens.
Yeah.
Baby could still be going through, I guess, tana haerenga, kia hine nui te pō.
Wow.
So, yeah, we were in limbo for about 5 days, not knowing. The blood tests were coming back still positive.
Wow.
And so on day 5, it was the day before Matariki.
Oh.
Yeah, and so we were heading off to the hautapu in Rāwhitiroa. So we got time to heal.
Yeah, me te tuku I aia.
Yeah.
Mā matariki mā ngā atua I te pō I e manaki e te aki. Kano I te aroha ki a koe hoa. It's, you know, matariki was only the other day, so I know that this is very raw still for you, and this will be a journey forever. And I'm sure you come across this often, Kasey, and how do you find that journey for māmā and for wahine?
He pauri anō. And I think my job again is just to awhi and help advocate for whatever is actually going to help you in your whānau, or whatever you and your whānau need.
Yeah.
Because there's all versions of it, medicines and bits and whatever, but and the scans and the blood tests and all that kind of clinical.
It's quite invasive, eh? Yeah.
And so it's just helping refocus. So yeah, so for my juniors there, because they are often the ones that see you the most, maybe.
Oh, really?
It's helping them refocus on what you might need at the time. And talking you through options, because being informed is probably the key. So giving you all the information that we have, because the other thing is sometimes we don't have all the information, and we do the fight, you know, time will declare on what's going to happen, and we kind of can't predict. But yeah, it's common, and it's a journey that's really different for ia whānau, ia wahine, ia hapu.
He rerekē, mō ia wahine, tika taho. Yeah, if I can just kind of pick up from that, is that I'm sure we have a lot of wahine who have been on contraception for a long time. They come off the contraception ready to have tamariki, but find that it's not working, or, you know, ka pēnei te āhua. And hea ētahi kōrero āwhina o rautaki, what are some thoughts or some helpful information for wahine, or some tips that they might take from to help them in their, if they are wanting to come off contraception, then move into having tamariki again, but really struggling with that?
So time's probably important, and asking your GP at least probably like 6 months to a year, they say, of trying after a type of contraceptive, and different contraceptives will have that delay.
Okay. Some more than others.
Yeah, Depo-Provera is renowned for having quite a long time to come back. A key will be whether or not your ikura is returned.
Okay.
You know, because then you know that ovulation's probably happening, because you're getting that every month. So that's probably the first thing.
Sure.
Is your ikura returned or not?
Does it matter how, and what type of way, like, it comes back?
Regular is better. So not a 1 day here, 3 months down the track. So the more regular it is, then that's probably more a sound that you're ovulating.
Yeah.
And then, it sounds thing to say, but, you know, in terms of overall healthy life choices at the time too, it's always really key to.
I've heard that, you know, I've had some friends actually that the doctor have said, you need to lose weight, or you need to, you know, do this, do that. Hard to hear at the time, but potentially helpful for that situation. But so is that, those are actual, that's all part of it,
I think it's all about, not just about weight, but just that hauora there, when you're just in that space of well-being and hauora and just your hinengaros there, everything else follows after that. And kia tau tō wairua pia.
Kia ora. So if we're talking, let's talk natural contraception options. Hei whakakapinga mā tātou pia. And so if I'm just sharing my own personal experience, is that I don't really like any sort of contraception, really. Well, that's a bad thing to say, but I don't like any hormonal or introduction of any foreign things into my body. I like to try and use other methods that don't have such what I find an invasive, and I like to track my ikura and all of those sorts of things. How can we do that effectively? Kasey, what do you think?
Well, there's definitely like websites and resources around the fertility awareness, and I think so they are all based on body temperature or basal temperature, they call it, and the changes in that ikura around cervical mucus that you get, and the openness, I guess, of that whare tangata, and ovulation, and the cycle, the length. Like you have to. That's key. It's kind of knowing how long your cycle is. So from day one of your ikura to the day before of your next ikura. And that will take a few months to try and figure out your trend or what your average is.
Interesting. Is that something that you've done before, Hua? Like tracked your ikura, or like just thinking of natural ways of contraception and things like that?
Just recently actually. I've been using the app Flow, which is really good. Māmā.
It's free.
And I'm very much like you now. Now that I'm a lot older and heading into my 30s, I'm like, I don't like the idea of having something in my tinana that's, I don't know, doing things. Things that I don't actually know if it's okay.
I like what you were saying before about the kōrero that you have with your tāne. And so how involved is he with, your tinana? Well, how involved is he with your tinana? That's a bad question. But what I mean by that is like, how involved in knowing is he of what's going on for you, and when you talk about contraception and your ikura and those sorts of things. So you have those conversations with him.
Yeah, we do. We talk in depth. He asks questions, and I feel like we're on the same page when it comes to both of our hauora, and talking about the, real raw shit.
Te whānau.
There it is.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I love that we can have that relationship, friendship together.
Because it shouldn't just be on the wahine.
Tika.
He manuitina. It shouldn't just be our responsibility. And how do you see that a lot? Do you see tāne being involved in these procedures, or, are they coming together? No, it's always just the wahine. Wow. Are they allowed, actually? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So the classic one, because I see women around tubal ligation that they are requesting
that is ligation. When they tie their
So when you have keyhole surgery to either clip your tubes as a permanent kind of contraceptive. And so I always, when women come to see me, I talk to them about that procedure, pros and cons, and give them all their other options. And I always throw it in there, and I was like, another option is vasectomy near. Have you had a kōrero with your whānau, with your partner around that? And more often than not, actually more recently, wahine will go, oh no, but this is my self-determination for my tinana near. And I won't put that on him. But others will then say, oh, he's thought about it, but it's too mamai or something like that. I know.
How many times have we given birth?
But
kai arawa. But try and say, don't forget to have that kōrero with your partner about all of your options as a whānau.
I think that's important.
As a partnership.
Is there in Aotearoa, is there any contraception that a tāne can have? Are they creating one?
Is that on the
is there one in the pipelines?
Other than condom there.
Wow.
That blows
Well,
my
that's a bit
mind.
shit, isn't
There's-
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Because
the
I guess actually
responsibility, right?
vasectomy too is not, technically they can't reverse it. And so that's a permanent thing too.
Whereas
so,
your
you know, we
tube,
have,
say you can untie it?
Or do you
Oh,
cut
sorry.
you
tube?
clip, there's like
you
these
clip.
little
Okay.
titanium clips that you put on your tubes.
Wow.
Yeah. And technically you can reverse it. It's not publicly funded. Often you need to go overseas to take it off and then, then rejoin the tubes.
Amazing.
So it's quite expensive.
Wow.
Yeah.
And mō ngā tāne hoki, I think you can redo a vasectomy, but it's how successful that is.
No,
too.
that's right. That's right. So I think I want to ask this final question of you both. And, you know, we've talked about our experiences. We've been on our journeys. But what would you be telling your daughters? How would you want them to navigate this journey through contraception, through their tinana, through looking after their whare tangata? Pēhea ki a koe, Puawai.
Whakarongo ki tō māmā.
Yes.
Mum.
Yeah.
Oh, the many times Mum tried to have conversations with me as a teenager, and I was like, no,
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. Whakarongo ki tō māmā. And try to have those conversations more within your whānau, your wider whānau, your aunties, your kuia, and really try and bring up those kaupapa, you know, when it's appropriate. So it normalizes those conversations in our whare as well. And so that they grow up hearing it. Yes. And it's like, oh, that's normal. Yeah.
We all talk about it.
Yeah, tika. And there's no like tapu around the conversation.
Yeah. That's really important. And I just think it's been really inspiring to hear you, and you talk about the way that you and your tāne share those conversations. And I think it is going to take for us ladies to actually open up and have that conversation, because sometimes our tāne aren't going to come this way, so they're not going to go, hey, how's that pill going? Or how's that rod going? So, you know, what are we going to do to sort of bring them in and help them understand what goes on for us, because once you put something in your body, it affects everything.
Tika.
He manui tēnā. And what about you, Kasey? What pēr etahi kōrero ki o tamahine?
Just that, normalise the kōrero and have the kōrero is probably the more important thing. I think in my household, e rua aku tamahine. They're probably doomed as a gynecologist's daughter anyway.
Not sorry.
My daughter has a raki and she thought it was like her favourite toy for ages.
Nice.
Doing different things. Trying to normalise that kaupapa within our wider whānau is probably going to be important.
Kia ora.
To their aunties and their cousins and bits and pieces.
Absolutely powerful. Thank you, ladies.
Kia ora.
That was awesome. I really enjoyed that kōrero. We got to hear actual kōrero. We got to get some advice about what to do. But most importantly, Puawai, I just want to thank you, Ehua, for sharing your story. Me tēnei huarahi e takahi nei kōrua ko tō hoa. E aroha nui ana ki a koe, ki a kōrua ki tō pāhara keke e tupu nei. Me te mana ko ia, ka tau I honga mana ki tanga ki runga I a koutou. I tēnei wā āhare ake nei. And Kasey, thank you for bringing the mātauranga, bringing the context, the perspective. Because like I said right at the beginning, we don't know enough. And we need wahine like you in those spaces, but also outside of those spaces to share and make us feel like, we know we know our shit. We know what we're talking about. So thank you, ladies. This has been a beautiful kōrero. And I hope mō ngā wāhine, mō ngā māmā, kua piri mai ki tā tātou kaupapa, kua whai hua hoki koutou I tēnei kōrero. Ngā manaakitanga.